He sent his ex-wife a wedding invitation with one goal: to destroy her in front of everyone. But when she stepped out of that limousine holding twin boys, dressed like absolute royalty, his entire wedding froze. What he didn't know: the broken woman he abandoned 3 years ago had become someone he could never touch again. Stay with me, because what happened next will make you believe in karma. And if you love stories about people who rise from the ashes, hit that subscribe button right now. You're going to want to see how this ends. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday morning. Amara stood in her apartment in Surulere, Lagos, staring at the gold-embossed envelope. Before she even opened it, she knew. Only one person would send something this ostentatious: Chike, her ex-husband. Inside, expensive cardstock announced his wedding to Zainab Badmus. Not just any woman, the Badmus family owned half of Lagos's prime real estate. They had the kind of money and connections that could make or break anyone in Nigerian high society. But it was the handwritten note that made her blood run cold. "Amara, I thought you should see what real success looks like. Do come. I've reserved a seat for you in the back. It would be a shame if you missed seeing what you could never give me." Read that again. A seat in the back. He wanted her there not as a guest, but as a spectacle. A broken woman watching from the shadows while he celebrated his victory. This was Chike's final move, his last attempt to prove he'd been right to leave her. What he didn't know was that Amara had changed in ways he couldn't even imagine. Let me take you back 3 years. When Chike left Amara, she was devastated. They'd met in university, married young. She'd worked 2 jobs to put him through his master's degree. She supported him, believed in him, sacrificed for him. Then the moment he landed a position at an international oil company, he served her divorce papers. His words still haunted her. "You're not sophisticated enough. My colleagues' wives went to schools abroad. They know how to carry themselves in society. You're just too local, Amara. I need someone who can match my ambitions." He packed his designer suits and left her with nothing: cheap furniture in a rented flat, and a heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. For months she barely functioned: work, home, cry, repeat. But her best friend Ngozi refused to let her stay down. "You're brilliant with numbers, Amara. Stop making other people rich. Start your own consulting firm." It seemed impossible. No capital, no connections, no experience, but Ngozi was relentless. So Amara registered a small financial consulting firm, working from her laptop in her tiny apartment. The breakthrough came when a friend needed help with her late father's import business. The books were a disaster: years of mismanagement, potential fraud. Amara worked around the clock for 3 weeks. She not only solved the problem, but discovered revenue streams that had been completely overlooked. She saved the business. That recommendation led to another client, then another. Within a year, Amara was consulting for mid-sized businesses across Lagos. Within 2 years, she'd been hired by a conglomerate to audit their subsidiaries. What she discovered was staggering: a complex embezzlement scheme bleeding the company of millions. Her meticulous work impressed the chairman so much, he offered her a position as chief financial officer. She declined. She preferred independence. But she accepted him as a client, and he introduced her to others like him: wealthy, powerful people who needed someone they could trust. By year 3, Amara's firm was managing finances for some of the wealthiest families in West Africa. But there was something else, something that changed her life even more than business success. She was a mother now. Her twin sons, Chidi and Chima, were 2 years old. Brown eyes, generous smiles. Looking at them, she felt fierce love she'd never known before. Their father wasn't Chike. After the divorce, she'd met Emeka, a kind doctor who worked with Médecins Sans Frontières. Their relationship was brief but genuine. When she discovered she was pregnant, Emeka was already in South Sudan on assignment. Then came devastating news. Emeka had been killed when his clinic was caught in crossfire during a rebel attack. She grieved while her belly swelled with twins. Ngozi was her rock through it all, and when she gave birth to 2 beautiful boys, they became her entire world. Now, standing in her apartment with that wedding invitation, Amara made a decision. She would go to Chike's wedding, not to be humiliated, not to hide in the shadows. She would go to show him his cruelty hadn't destroyed her, that she'd built a life he couldn't begin to understand. She called Ngozi. He invited you to disgrace you, and you're actually going? I'm going. But not the way he expects. Amara had a client, Mrs. Okafor, who owned a tech empire. She'd been trying to gift Amara a fleet car as thanks for merger work. Amara had always refused. Too much. But maybe she'd accept the loan of one car for Saturday. Oh, this is going to be good, Ngozi laughed. What else? I need an outfit. Something elegant, expensive, but not trying too hard. Old money vibes. And I need a stylist. Consider it done. What about the boys? Amara looked at her sleeping sons. They're coming with me. They're part of who I am now. If Chike wants to see the real Amara, he'll see all of me, including the beautiful family I built without him. The morning of the wedding, Amara barely slept. Was she doing this for the right reasons? Was she stooping to his level? Then she remembered the note. A seat in the back. The calculated cruelty. Number. She wasn't stooping. She was refusing to be his victim. Ngozi arrived at 8 with Temi, a chic stylist. For 3 hours, Amara was transformed. Temi had sourced a stunning emerald green Ankara dress from Deola Sagoe, one of Nigeria's most celebrated designers. Rich fabric, sophisticated cut, modern twist on traditional styling, pure elegance and cultural pride. Her hair was styled in an intricate updo with subtle gold accessories. Makeup flawless but natural. When Temi finally let her look in the mirror, Amara barely recognized herself. She looked like royalty. The boys were dressed in matching outfits, tiny agbada made from the same fabric. Little caps, absolutely adorable. At 11:30, a sleek black Mercedes S-Class pulled up. Mrs. Okafor hadn't just loaned a car, she'd sent her personal vehicle with a professional driver. Mrs. Okafor says to knock them dead, the driver smiled. Ngozi squeezed Amara's hand. You've got this. You're not the same woman he left. You're stronger, more successful, and you've got 2 beautiful boys. Hold your head high. The drive to Victoria Island felt both too long and too short. The Oriental Hotel was spectacular. White and gold draping, flowers that must have cost a fortune. Luxury cars everywhere, guests in expensive attire. When the Mercedes pulled up, heads turned. The valet rushed to open the door. Amara stepped out, holding Chidi while the driver helped Ngozi with Chima. She adjusted her dress, lifted her chin, and walked toward the entrance. Inside, the whispers started immediately. Who is that? She's stunning. Are those twins? Look at their little agbada. I don't recognize her. Which family is she from? Amara kept her expression serene, even as her heart raced. A staff member approached to check her invitation, ready to direct her to that back seat. But then a familiar voice called out, Amara. Amara Okoro. She turned, Mr. Adeyemi, one of her long-standing clients, chairman of a major telecommunications company, a respected figure in Lagos business circles. Mr. Adeyemi, she greeted warmly. He approached with his wife, both smiling. I didn't know you knew the couple, and you've brought a friend. Come, we're sitting at the family table. You must join us. Oh, I couldn't. Nonsense. After everything you've done for our family's finances, you're practically family yourself, and you have twins. When did this happen? You've been keeping secrets, Amara. Before she could protest, she was being ushered not to the back, but toward the front. The VIP tables. The Adeyemis were important guests, seated in prime location with perfect view of the ceremony. As they walked through the venue, more people recognized her. A client here, a business associate there, each greeting warm, respectful, elevating her status. By the time she was seated at the prominent table, several people had stopped to greet her and admire the twins. And that's when Chike saw her. He'd been greeting guests with Zainab when he noticed the commotion. A strikingly beautiful woman in green had caused heads to turn. People were flocking to greet her. He was curious about who could command such attention at his wedding, until she turned. Amara, but not the Amara he'd left. This woman was polished, confident, radiant. She was sitting at one of the most prestigious tables, holding court with some of Lagos's most influential people. The twins on her lap were drawing admiring coos from guests. His stomach dropped. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. She was supposed to slink in quietly, sit in the back, watch in envious misery. She wasn't supposed to look like she belonged there more than he did. Zainab noticed his distraction. "Chike? What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." "That's my ex-wife," he managed. Zainab followed his gaze. "The woman in green? With the twins? She's beautiful, and she seems quite popular. I thought you said your ex-wife was… what did you call her? Unsophisticated?" Chike didn't answer, because nothing about the woman in that VIP seat looked unsophisticated. Everything about her screamed success and class. The ceremony began, but Chike was distracted throughout. He kept glancing at Amara, watching as she managed her sons with ease while engaging graciously with people around her. When Chima started to fuss, Mr. Adeyemi himself entertained the boy, bouncing him on his knee. During the vows, while Chike should have been focused on his bride, he found himself wondering about those twins. When had Amara had children? Who was their father, and how had she elevated herself to where Lagos's elite treated her like one of their own? The reception was in the grand ballroom. Crystal chandeliers, elaborate decorations. Amara was at the Adeyemi's table, positioned more prominently than some of the groom's own family. The irony wasn't lost on her. The twins were remarkably well-behaved, charmed by the attention. Mrs. Adeyemi had taken a particular liking to them. That's when Mrs. Badmus herself approached, Zainab's mother, one of the most powerful women in Lagos. "Mr. Adeyemi," she greeted warmly before turning to Amara, "and you must introduce me to your beautiful friend." Mr. Adeyemi stood. "Mrs. Badmus, allow me to introduce Amara Okoro. She's the finest financial consultant in Lagos, saved my company from a catastrophic audit disaster last year. Brilliant mind for numbers. Amara, this is our gracious hostess, Mrs. Badmus." Amara stood, balancing Chidi on her hip, and extended her hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Ma. Congratulations on your daughter's wedding. It's beautiful." Mrs. Badmus shook her hand, her eyes sharp and assessing. "Okoro, financial consultant. I feel I should know this name. Do you work with the Okafor Tech Group?" "I do handle some consulting for Mrs. Okafor, yes." "Ah." Mrs. Badmus's expression shifted to recognition and respect. "Elizabeth has mentioned you. She says you're a genius with corporate finances, very protective of you, says other companies keep trying to poach you. Mrs. Okafor has been very kind." Mrs. Badmus looked at the twins. "And you have beautiful children." "Twins. Such a blessing. Your husband must be very proud." "I'm a widow, Ma. Their father passed away before they were born." The older woman's expression softened. "I'm so sorry, my dear. Yet you've managed to build a successful career while raising twins alone. That's remarkable. You must have incredible strength." Before Amara could respond, Chike appeared at his new mother-in-law's elbow, his face carefully composed but his eyes showing agitation. "Mother, I see you've met my ex-wife, Amara." The ballroom seemed to go quiet. Or perhaps everyone at nearby tables just stopped talking to listen. Mrs. Badmus turned to Chike, eyebrows raised. "Your ex-wife? This is the woman you were married to before." "Yes," Chike said tightly. He turned to Amara, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Amara, I'm surprised to see you here. And with children. I didn't know you'd remarried." "I haven't," Amara said calmly. "As I just told Mrs. Badmus, I'm a widow. My partner passed away during his humanitarian work in South Sudan." She saw the calculation in Chike's eyes as he tried to reconcile this with the woman he thought he knew. "I have to say," Mrs. Badmus interjected, her tone cooling as she looked at her new son-in-law, "you failed to mention that your ex-wife was such an accomplished woman. When you spoke of your previous marriage, you gave me the impression that it was to someone quite different." Chike's jaw tightened. "People change. Indeed they do," Mrs. Badmus said, her meaning clear. She turned back to Amara. "My dear, I'd love to discuss some consulting work with you. We're restructuring some of our real estate holdings, and Elizabeth speaks so highly of your discretion and expertise. May I have someone contact you?" "Of course, Ma. I'd be honored." Mrs. Badmus nodded and swept away, leaving Chike standing there, his humiliation barely concealed. Mr. Adeyemi, never one to miss an opportunity, spoke up. "Chike, my boy, I have to tell you, when you let this one go, you let go of a gem. Amara's saved my company millions, best financial mind I've ever encountered, and raising twins alone while building her firm. That's the kind of strength and character you don't find often." Chike's face had gone red. He opened his mouth, closed it, clearly unable to find words that wouldn't make things worse. Finally, he mumbled something about greeting other guests and retreated. As the reception continued, Amara found herself in an unexpected position. Rather than being the pitied ex-wife relegated to shadows, she was treated as one of the honored guests. People approached to introduce themselves, to ask about her services, to compliment her sons. Zainab the bride even came by, her expression curious and friendly. "You're Amara, Chike's ex-wife." "I am," Amara confirmed, unsure what to expect. Zainab studied her, then smiled with an edge. "He told me you were provincial, unsophisticated, unable to fit into his world." She paused. Clearly, he was either lying or completely blind. Amara didn't know what to say. "My mother is already singing your praises. Half the guests here know who you are and respect you. And those twins of yours are the most adorable things I've ever seen." She leaned in. "Between you and me, I think you dodged a bullet. Chike's charming, but he's also ambitious to a fault and has a tendency to rewrite history to make himself look better. I'm going into this marriage with my eyes open." It was such unexpected candor that Amara found herself warming to her. "I appreciate your honesty, and congratulations on your wedding. I hope you'll be very happy." "Thank you," Zainab said, then added with a knowing smile, "and thank you for coming. I suspect you've made this a wedding Chike won't forget." As the evening drew to a close and guests began to depart, Amara gathered the now sleeping twins. The Mercedes was waiting. Several guests offered to walk her to her car, treating her like the VIP she'd somehow become. Just before she reached the exit, Chike intercepted her one last time. He looked deflated, his earlier confidence gone. "Amara, wait." She turned, Chidi asleep on her shoulder, Chima in Ngozi's arms. "What is it, Chike?" He looked at her, really looked at her, perhaps for the first time in years. "You've done well for yourself." "I have. The twins. They're beautiful." "Thank you." He struggled with what to say next. "I thought, when I sent you that invitation, I thought you were still the broken woman you left behind. Still struggling, still devastated by your rejection." He had the grace to look ashamed. "I was devastated, Chike," she said quietly. "You shattered me. But I rebuilt myself, and I did it without you. I built a career that gives me purpose, and I have 2 sons who are my entire world. I found strength I didn't know I had." "I was a fool," he whispered. "Yes, you were. You married me when I was local enough to support you through your degrees and early career struggles. Then, the moment you thought you'd climbed high enough, you discarded me like I was holding you back." She adjusted Chidi on her shoulder. "But you did me a favor. Because if you'd stayed, I would never have discovered what I was capable of. I would have spent my life in your shadow, making myself smaller so you could feel bigger. Amara, I forgive you, Chike. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. I hope you'll be happy with Zainab. She seems like a strong woman. She'll need to be." She turned to leave, then paused and looked back. "Oh, and Chike? The next time you want to humiliate someone, remember that you don't actually know them anymore. People change. They grow. Sometimes they become exactly what you claimed they could never be. And that seat in the back you reserved for me, I never needed it. I earned my place at the front all by myself." With that, Amara walked out into the Lagos night, her head held high, her son secure in her arms, her future bright before her. Behind her, she could hear the whispers starting again, but this time they were about her. About her grace, her success, her strength. The Mercedes pulled away from the Oriental Hotel, and Amara allowed herself a small smile. She'd come expecting a battle, but she'd won something better, her own peace. She'd proven to herself that she didn't need Chike's validation or anyone else's. She'd built a life worth living, and that was a victory no one could take away. Ngozi squeezed her hand. That was magnificent. It was necessary. But it's over now. Tomorrow I go back to my life, the life I built from the ashes. And it's a beautiful life. As they drove through Lagos, past glittering lights and late-night bustle, Amara looked down at her sleeping sons and felt profound gratitude. Chike had meant to destroy her tonight, to show her everything she'd lost. Instead, he'd given her the opportunity to see how far she'd come. She was no longer the woman he'd left behind. She was Amara Okoro, businesswoman, mother, survivor, success story, and that was more than enough. Listen, Chike planned to disgrace his ex-wife. Instead, he disgraced himself. Amara walked into that wedding not as the forgotten woman from his past, but as a symbol of strength, success, and dignity. Life has a way of flipping the script. The seat in the back he reserved for her was never hers to begin with. She had already earned her place at the front. Remember this. Never look down on someone, because the person you try to shame today may rise higher than you ever imagined. Now, if this story moved you, if it reminded you that your comeback can be greater than your setback, I need you to do 3 things right now. First, smash that like button. This story needs to reach everyone who's ever been underestimated, everyone who's ever been told they weren't enough. Your like pushes this story to someone who needs to hear it today. Second, subscribe and turn on notifications. I share stories like this every week, stories about people who refused to stay down, who turned their pain into power, who proved their doubters wrong. You don't want to miss what's coming next. And third, share this. Send it to that friend who's going through a divorce. Send it to your sister who's rebuilding her life. Send it to anyone who needs to be reminded that the end of one chapter is just the beginning of an even better one. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever had a moment where you proved someone wrong about you? Have you ever had your own seat at the front moment? I read every single comment, and your story might inspire the next video. And if you're going through something right now, if someone has made you feel small, remember Amara. Remember that the person who underestimated you doesn't get to write your ending. You do. I'll see you in the next story. Keep rising.